The night I saved a man's life, I was scrubbing his kitchen floor on my hands and knees while his wife stepped over me like I was part of the tile. 6 months later, that same man would be on one knee in front of me and his wife would be in handcuffs. But I'm getting ahead of myself. My name is Amara Jenkins. And if you'd told me 2 years ago that I'd end up tangled in a web of murder plots, betrayal, and a love story I still can't fully explain, I would have laughed in your face. But life has a funny way of dragging you into chapters you never planned to write. I graduated from Howard with a degree in business administration. Summa cum laude, thank you very much. My mama, God rest her soul, cried so hard at the ceremony that the lady next to her offered her a whole pack of tissues. Mama always said I was going to do something big. You're going to change the world, baby girl. I just know it. She passed away 8 months after that. Breast cancer. Fast and cruel, the way it sometimes is. And with her went my safety net, my biggest cheerleader, my everything. After that, things fell apart in the quiet way that things do when grief eats you from the inside. I couldn't focus. Lost the entry-level consulting gig I'd landed. Burned through my savings paying off Mama's medical bills because insurance covered about as much as a paper umbrella in a hurricane. And suddenly, the girl with the honors degree was scrolling through Craigslist at 2 a.m, looking for anything. Literally anything that paid. That's how I found the listing. Live-in housekeeper needed for private residence. Competitive salary. Immediate start. The address was in one of those neighborhoods where the houses have names instead of numbers. The kind of neighborhood where the mailboxes cost more than my car. I showed up for the interview in my best blazer, the one I'd worn to job fairs. And Vivian Crane opened the door in a cream silk robe like she was posing for a magazine cover. She looked me up and down the way you'd inspect a used couch on Facebook Marketplace. Not with hostility exactly. More like I was the thing she was deciding whether or not to purchase. "Can you start Monday?" she asked, before I'd even sat down. That was my interview. That was it. The Crane mansion was the kind of house that felt like it was performing. 20-foot ceilings, a Christmas tree in the foyer that could have been in Rockefeller Center. Fresh flowers in every room, even the ones nobody used. And behind all that polish, a cold, hollow emptiness that hit you the moment the front door closed. Marcus Crane, Vivian's husband, was a ghost in his own home. I'd see him early mornings sometimes, leaving for work in tailored suits that cost more than 3 months of my salary. Jaw set, eyes distant. He never acknowledged me. Not out of cruelty, I don't think. I just genuinely don't believe he saw me. Nobody in that house saw me. And that was the thing. I was invisible. Not in a superpower way. In the way that makes your chest ache when you're standing in a room full of people and not a single one of them would notice if you disappeared. I'd serve cocktails at their dinner parties, and guests would take glasses from my tray without breaking their conversation, without glancing at my face, without a thank you. I was furniture, functional and forgettable. One night, about 3 months in, Vivian was hosting a group of her friends, all designer dresses and razor-sharp cheekbones. And I was refilling the wine. One of them asked Vivian about the help situation, like I wasn't standing 4 feet away. Vivian waved her hand and laughed. "Oh, she's harmless. Honestly, I forget she's even here half the time." They all laughed, and I stood there, holding that bottle of Pinot Noir, smiling like I was in on the joke, while something inside me crumbled. I went back to the kitchen, set the bottle down, and gripped the edge of the counter until my knuckles ached. I thought about my mama, about what she imagined my life would look like. I thought, "Mama, if you could see me now." But here's the thing about being invisible. People forget you can hear. And what I heard through those walls changed everything. It was a Tuesday, about 2 weeks before Christmas. I was cleaning the upstairs study, the one Mrs. Crane kept locked, except I'd found a spare key months ago in the junk drawer, because rich people are careless like that. I was wiping down the bookshelves when I heard voices bleeding through the heating vent. Vivian's bedroom shared ductwork with the study, and sound traveled through those old vents like a highway. I froze, because the voice with Vivian wasn't her husband's. It was deeper, smoother, and way too comfortable for someone who shouldn't be in a married woman's bedroom on a Tuesday afternoon. 3 more weeks, Vivian said. Her voice was sharp, calculated. Nothing like the bubbly socialite act she put on at dinner parties. The insurance policy updates on January 1st. Double indemnity. $50 million, Derek. $50 million. And then we can finally stop hiding. Derek. My stomach dropped. Derek Crane, Marcus's cousin, his right hand. The man who sat next to him at every family dinner, who clapped him on the back and called him brother. And you're sure this will work? Derek's voice. Hungry. Eager. Your husband isn't stupid, Viv. The man has survived things that would have killed anybody else. Because he trusts me. I could hear the smile in her voice, and it made my skin crawl. He doesn't love me. Hasn't touched me in over a year. But he trusts me. And that's his weakness. Christmas Eve, during the family gathering, I'll put the antifreeze in his whiskey, just enough to mimic a heart attack. Doctor, Brennan is already paid off. And you, baby, will be on a flight to Miami with a perfect alibi. My hands were shaking so bad, I almost dropped the Windex. I pressed myself against the wall, barely breathing, trying to process what I was hearing. This woman who I made breakfast for every morning, who I pressed silk blouses for, who couldn't be bothered to learn my last name, was planning to murder her husband. And then Derek asked the question that turned my blood to ice. What about the maid? The black girl. She's always around, always watching. Vivian laughed, cold, dismissive. The same laugh from the dinner party. Amara? She's nobody. An invisible little worker bee. But just in case, I bought the antifreeze with her credit card. Lifted it from her purse last month. If anything ever gets investigated, the trail leads straight to her. Who do you think they'd believe, Derek? Me or the help? I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. She wasn't just planning to kill Marcus. She was planning to frame me for it. If Marcus died, I wouldn't just lose my job. I'd lose my freedom, my life, everything. And that's when I realized this wasn't just about doing the right thing anymore. This was about survival, mine and his. I had 2 weeks until Christmas Eve. 2 weeks to decide. Do I run or do I fight? And let me tell you, I almost ran. That night, I sat on my little twin bed in the staff quarters and stared at my suitcase. It was already half packed. I'd been living out of it since I got there, honestly. Never fully unpacked because some part of me always knew this place wasn't home. My hands moved on autopilot. Jeans, sweaters, the framed photo of Mama from my nightstand. I could be on a Greyhound by morning. Disappear. New city, new name, new start. Let the Cranes sort out their own mess. But then I stopped, because if I ran, Marcus Crane would be dead by Christmas. And I, Amara Jenkins, honors graduate, daughter of Sandra Jenkins, who raised me to stand for something, I would be the one they blamed. My credit card, my fingerprints on that cleaning supply cabinet. Vivian had thought of everything. If I ran, it wouldn't look like running. It would look like guilt. I sat on that bed for 3 hours, turning it over and over. At 2 a.m, I called my sister Tasha. Didn't tell her the details. Couldn't. Just said I was going through something and didn't know what to do. Mara, she said, her voice thick with sleep. If Mama was here, what would she tell you to do? I closed my eyes, and I could hear it, clear as day, in that voice that smelled like cocoa butter and sounded like Sunday mornings. You do the right thing, baby, even when it costs you, especially when it costs you. You already know the answer, sis. Tasha said. You always do the right thing, even when it scares you. I hung up, looked at my suitcase, and I unpacked it. Every single thing, back in the drawers, back on the nightstand. I wasn't running, I was staying. And for the next 2 weeks, I watched. I listened. I kept my head down and my eyes wide open, gathering every scrap of proof I could. Dates, times, overheard conversations. The bottle of antifreeze I spotted hidden in Derek's car when I took out the trash one evening. I memorized it all, wrote it down in a notebook I kept tucked inside my pillowcase. So I stayed, and for 2 weeks, I watched. I gathered proof. And then, on the night Marcus came home 3 hours early, I made my move. It was a Wednesday, December 20th. 9 p.m., I was finishing up in the kitchen when headlights swept across the window. A gunmetal Mercedes pulling into the circular driveway. Way too early. Marcus wasn't supposed to be home until midnight. I knew this because Vivian knew this. and Vivian had made sure of it. She'd told him she was at a charity gala. Instead, she was upstairs with Derek. I heard Marcus's car door shut, heard his footsteps on the stone path, and I heard what he must have heard too. Vivian's laughter floating down from the open bedroom window, breathless, intimate, and a man's voice answering her, a voice he would have recognized anywhere. My body moved before my brain caught up. I slipped out the side entrance and caught him in the shadows near the garden. He was standing completely still, staring up at that window. And his hand, I swear to God, his hand was reaching toward the inside of his coat. I didn't know what was there. I didn't want to find out. "Be quiet," I whispered, grabbing his arm. "Please, just be quiet and come with me." He looked at me like I'd lost my mind. And honestly, maybe I had. This was Marcus Crane, the man people in the city spoke about in whispers. The man whose family business was the kind of business you didn't ask questions about. And here I was, the housekeeper, grabbing his arm in the dark. "Talk," he said. His voice was so low, it was almost a vibration. "And this better be good, or you're fired for touching me." So I talked. I told him everything. The overheard conversation, the antifreeze, the insurance policy, Dr. Brennan on the payroll, Derek, his cousin, his blood, the man he trusted more than anyone, in bed with his wife right now, right above our heads, planning his murder. And I told him about the credit card. That if Marcus died, the evidence would point to me. That I was their insurance policy, their fall guy. His expression didn't change while I spoke. Not once. But I watched his eyes, and I saw something behind them crack. Not shatter. Crack. Like a windshield hit by a rock. Still holding together, but the damage was done. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Then he pulled out his phone. "Jay, I need you at the house. Bring the team. Bring recording equipment." A pause. "Because I'm about to catch a snake, and I want evidence before I cut off its head." He hung up and looked at me. Really looked at me. Not through me, not past me, at me. For the first time in 6 months, I was not invisible. "Why didn't you come to me sooner?" he asked. "Because I needed proof. And because..." I hesitated. "Because I needed to know if you were worth saving. Anybody else might have fired me on the spot for that. Or worse." Instead, something shifted in his face. Not softening exactly, but warming. Like ice when sunlight first hits it. "And?" he said quietly. "Am I?" "I watched you for 2 weeks," I told him. "I saw you write checks to the children's hospital under a fake name. I saw you pay for your driver's daughter's wedding when he was too proud to ask. I see you leave every Sunday morning and come back with dirt on your knees. And I know you're visiting your mother's grave." I swallowed. "So yeah, I think you're worth saving." Marcus didn't respond. He didn't need to. Jay Santos arrived 15 minutes later with 3 other men. Silent, professional, moving through the darkness like they'd been born in it. Marcus led us all in through the servants' entrance, up the back staircase, through a storage closet that connected to the master bedroom, through a locked door that Marcus picked in under 10 seconds. And through the gap in that door, we saw everything. Vivian, in the bed Marcus had bought her for their anniversary. And Derek, his cousin, his own blood, right there with her, saying things that would make your stomach turn, planning timelines, laughing about how easy it was going to be. Derek saying, 8 years I did his dirty work. I earned this. The money, you, all of it. I watched Marcus's face in the dark. I saw something break behind his eyes. And without thinking, I reached out and touched his hand. Just barely. Just enough to say, "You're not alone in this." His fingers twitched. Then, for 1 second, so brief I might have imagined it, he squeezed back. Jay recorded everything, every word, every damning detail. When they had enough, Marcus led us out the way we came. Silent, controlled, terrifying in his calm. Marcus didn't explode. He didn't storm in with guns blazing. Instead, he smiled. And that smile was the scariest thing I'd ever seen. Back in his study, he laid it out. Christmas Eve, we let her go through with it. We catch her in the act, on camera, in front of witnesses. Nobody moves until then. Nobody tips them off. Hannah, Vivian acts normal. Derek acts normal. And we act normal. He looked at me. "That means you go back out there tomorrow morning and you serve her breakfast. You press her clothes. You smile while she plans my death. Can you do that?" "I've been doing it for 2 weeks," I said. "This is different. Now you'll see me every day and have to pretend nothing has changed." I can handle it. He studied me for a long moment. I believe you can. Then, quieter. The girl who saved my life stays close. I want her protected. The next 4 days were the longest of my life. I served Vivian her morning coffee and watched her smile at me. That fake, sugar-coated smile, while knowing she'd set me up to take the fall for murder. She made me iron her Christmas Eve dress, made me polish the silver for the party, and on the second day, she knocked a full cup of coffee onto my uniform, in front of her friend who was visiting for lunch. Oops, tipped it right over. Oh, clumsy me, she said, not even looking up from her phone. But you're used to stains, aren't you, sweetheart? Her friend snickered. I stood there with hot coffee dripping down my shirt, and I smiled, because I knew what was coming for her. And the thought of it was the only thing keeping me from losing my mind. At night, things were different. After the house went dark and Vivian was asleep in her separate bedroom, I'd find myself in Marcus's study. It started as debriefs, updates on what Jay's team was uncovering. The affair had been going on for 18 months. Derek had been skimming money from Marcus's business the whole time. The doctor was real. The insurance policy was real. Everything Vivian and Derek had planned was airtight, except for me. But the debriefs turned into conversations. And the conversations turned into something I didn't expect. Marcus told me about growing up in his father's shadow, about inheriting a world he never chose, about building walls so high he forgot what it felt like to let someone in. He told me he'd married Vivian because his mother begged him to on her deathbed. She wanted me to have a family, he said, staring into his glass of water. He didn't drink anything he didn't pour himself anymore. She didn't want me to be alone. And I told him about Mama, about losing her, about how grief doesn't get smaller. You just build a bigger life around it. About standing in his kitchen at 2 a.m, holding a bottle of wine I was supposed to be shelving, wondering how I went from valedictorian dreams to scrubbing someone else's floors. You asked me why I saved you, I said one night. The real answer is, I think I was saving myself too, because if I walked away from this, I'd lose the last piece of my mother that lives in me, the part that stands up, the part that doesn't look away. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, I have 300 contacts in my phone, and there's not a single person I can call at 2 a.m. just to say I'm not okay. He looked at me, except maybe now there is. Something passed between us in that silence, something I wasn't ready to name, something that scared me more than Vivian's murder plot, if I'm being honest. Because catching feelings for Marcus Crane was not part of the plan. Christmas Eve arrived, and Vivian had no idea she was walking into her own funeral. Not the one she'd planned for Marcus, but the death of everything she'd built her lies on. The mansion was transformed. White flowers everywhere, twinkling lights dripping from every surface, ice sculptures catching the candlelight, and that massive Christmas tree in the main hall glowing like something out of a movie. Caterers in crisp black uniforms moved through the rooms with trays of champagne and hors d'oeuvres. It was beautiful. It was perfect. And underneath all of it, a trap was set. I changed into my formal uniform, the black one Vivian had picked out, and pinned the tiny camera to my collar. Jay had designed it. No bigger than a button, nearly invisible, but it captured audio and video of everyone I got close to. My hands were steady when I fastened it. The rest of me? Not so much. My heart was beating so hard, I could feel it in my teeth. I looked at myself in the mirror in the staff bathroom. I barely recognized the woman staring back. She looked calm, composed, like she was just there to serve drinks. Nobody would have guessed she was wired, terrified, and about 3 hours away from either the best or worst moment of her life. Guests started arriving around 7. Marcus's extended family, business associates, old friends, all dressed to the nines, kissing cheeks, shaking hands, admiring the tree. And in the center of it all was Vivian, playing the perfect hostess like she'd been born for it. Laughing, touching arms, refilling glasses, radiating warmth like a space heater in a snowstorm. The woman was terrifying, because watching her work that room, you'd never, not in a million years, suspect that she had murder on her to-do list, right between arrange the centerpieces and open the gifts. Derek was there too, standing at Marcus's side like a loyal shadow, cracking jokes, pouring drinks. At one point, I watched him clap Marcus on the shoulder and say, To family, cuz, always. And Marcus smiled back at him, a perfect practice smile, and said, always. The audacity of both of them, the betrayer and the betrayed, performing for each other. It was like watching two poker players at a final table. Except one of them didn't know the other could see his cards. I moved through the crowd with my tray, the camera capturing everything. Faces, conversations, the careful choreography of people playing their roles. Jay was somewhere in the crowd too, dressed as extra security, positioned close to Marcus at all times. Detective Morrison was by the bar in a sport coat, nursing a club soda, looking like any other guest. Everything was in place. At 9 o'clock, Vivian called for attention. The room quieted as she climbed the 3 steps to the small platform by the Christmas tree. Elegant and poised, diamonds glittering at her throat. Thank you all for being here tonight, she began, her voice carrying that warm, gracious tone she'd perfected. Christmas has always been special for the Crane family. Marcus's mother, God rest her soul, she loved this season more than anything. She believed in family, in tradition, in coming together to celebrate what truly matters. She turned to Marcus with a smile so tender it could have made you cry if you didn't know what was behind it. Honey, come up here. Marcus climbed the steps. Vivian reached behind the tree where she'd set a bottle of champagne. One she'd opened herself, away from the bartenders. She poured 2 glasses. I watched her hands from my position near the platform. Steady, practiced. And in her left hand, tucked against the folds of her dress, a small vial. She was smooth, I'll give her that. The movement was almost invisible. Almost. But before she could tip that vial, Jay was there. Smooth as silk, he bumped into her gently from behind. So sorry, ma'am. Excuse me. A stumble, a shuffle, glasses switching hands in the chaos of the moment. When everything settled, Marcus was holding a different glass. The poison one was in Jay's hand, already being sealed in an evidence bag behind his back. Vivian didn't notice. She was too locked in on her performance. To family, she said, raising her glass. To tradition, to the year ahead and all it holds. To family, the room echoed. Marcus raised his glass, but he didn't drink. Instead, he spoke. Actually, before we toast, I have something to say. Vivian's smile flickered, just a fraction. Honey, maybe after the... No, now. His voice cut through that room like a blade through silk. The temperature dropped. I felt it. Everyone felt it. You talk about family, Vivian. About tradition. About what my mother believed in. He turned the glass slowly in his hand. You know what she believed in most? Loyalty. She believed that betrayal was the worst sin a person could commit. That traitors deserved no mercy. Vivian's face went pale. Marcus, what are you... Tell me, sweetheart. What's in this glass you just handed me? Silence. The kind of silence that has weight. Champagne, she said, a little too quickly. Obviously. Are you feeling okay? Maybe you should sit. Jay, have it tested. Jay stepped forward with a small testing device, dipped a strip into the champagne from the original glass. The room watched. Nobody breathed. Seconds later, the strip changed color. Ethylene glycol, Jay announced, his voice flat and clinical. Antifreeze. Enough to kill a man in 12 hours. Symptoms consistent with cardiac arrest. The room erupted. Gasps. Someone screamed. People stumbled backward, away from Vivian, like she was radioactive. And Vivian's mask finally cracked. You're insane, she hissed. This is... I don't know what kind of sick game you're... No games. Marcus's voice was ice. Just truth. He gestured, and the wall behind the Christmas tree lit up. A projection screen descended, and video began to play. Vivian and Derek, in bed, their pillow talk about the murder plan in crisp, damning audio. The financial records, showing 18 months of embezzlement. A recorded statement from Dr. Brennan, who'd folded like a lawn chair when Jay paid him a visit. Every detail, every lot, projected 20 feet wide for the entire room to see. Vivian's face went from pale to gray. Derek bolted for the door, but 2 of Marcus's men were already there, arms folded, blocking the exit like a wall. Then Vivian did something I'll never forget. She dropped to her knees. Right there, on that platform, in her designer dress and her diamonds, she grabbed Marcus's leg and wailed. I'm pregnant, Marcus! You can't do this to me! I'm carrying your child! The room went dead silent. Every head turned. Even I held my breath. Marcus looked down at her. and the calm in his voice was more devastating than any scream could have been. "We haven't shared a bed in over a year, Vivian. If there's a baby, it's not mine." He turned to Derek, who'd gone white as a sheet across the room. "Congratulations, cousin." I heard someone in the crowd whisper, "Oh my God." I heard someone else start to clap and then stop themselves. Vivian crumpled. The performance was over. The real Vivian, desperate, cornered, ugly with fear, was all that was left. "The police are outside," Marcus said calmly. "Detective Morrison has been listening to everything. You'll both be arrested, tried, convicted, not by my hand, by the law. Because unlike you, I'm not a murderer." Detective Morrison entered with 4 uniformed officers. The reading of rights, the handcuffs, Vivian screaming as they led her out. Derek saying nothing because there was nothing left to say. The guests standing in stunned silence. And then, slowly, like a wave, they began to applaud. Because in Marcus's world, justice meant something, and he'd served it with his head held high. I stood at the edge of that room, still holding my serving tray, camera still recording, and I watched the man I'd saved stand on that platform alone. From the outside, he looked untouchable, powerful, in complete control. But I saw his hand, the one at his side, away from the crowd. It was trembling. And I was the only one who noticed. The police took them away. The guests left. The caterers cleaned up and disappeared. And then it was just us, Marcus and me, standing in the wreckage of his entire life. I found him in his study an hour later. He changed out of his suit into a sweater and jeans. The most human I'd ever seen him look. He was standing by the window, staring out at the snow-covered garden where I'd first grabbed his arm 5 days ago. 5 days. It felt like 5 years. I knocked softly on the open door. "Come in," he said without turning around. I stepped inside and closed the door behind me. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. "It's done," he finally said. "It's over." Yeah, I should feel something. Victory. Satisfaction. Something. He turned to face me, and the vulnerability in his eyes knocked the air out of my lungs. This wasn't the Marcus Crane the world knew. This was just a man, broken and exhausted, and trying to make sense of the wreckage. "But I just feel empty. You lost people you trusted," I said quietly. "That's grief. It's okay to feel it. She was going to kill me." He said it like he was still trying to make it real. My own wife was going to poison me and smile while I died. "I know." And Derek, my cousin, we grew up together. I taught him to drive. I trusted him with... His voice cracked, just barely, just enough to shatter me. I trusted him with everything. I know. He sat down heavily in the leather chair behind his desk and pressed his palms against his eyes. And then Marcus Crane, the man people in this city feared. The man who just dismantled a murder plot with surgical precision in front of 50 guests, cried, quietly, the way men cry when they've spent a lifetime being told they shouldn't. I didn't say anything, didn't offer platitudes, didn't try to fix it. I just walked over and sat on the arm of the chair and put my hand on his shoulder. Sometimes presence is enough. Sometimes just not being alone is the whole thing. After a while, he spoke again. Rough. Raw. "My mother's dying wish was for me to marry Vivian. She thought Vivian would give me a family, something to anchor me." He laughed, and it was the saddest sound I'd ever heard. "And Vivian used that. Used my dead mother's wish to get close enough to kill me. How do I live with that?" I didn't have an answer, so I gave him what I had. "You live. That's how. You live the life they tried to take from you, fully and well and without looking back." He looked up at me, and I looked down at him, and what happened next wasn't planned, wasn't calculated, wasn't anything either of us decided. It just happened. The way gravity happens, the way breathing happens. He reached up and touched my face, his thumb tracing my cheek like he was making sure I was real. And I leaned in, and we kissed. It was soft, not the desperate movie scene kind of kiss, the gentle kind, the kind that says, "I see you. I'm here. We're alive. And that's enough for now." When we pulled apart, he rested his forehead against mine and whispered, "Stay. Not as a maid. Not as staff. Stay with me. I know it's fast. I know it's crazy. I know." "Yes," I said. "Yes, Marcus. I'll stay." The trial came 3 months later. I won't drag you through every detail, but here's what matters. Vivian and Derek were convicted on all counts: conspiracy to commit murder, fraud, embezzlement. 25 to life for her. Even more for him with the financial charges stacked on. Doctor. Brennan flipped for a reduced sentence and testified against them both. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. Marcus and I sat through every day of that trial, side by side. Not hiding, not pretending, facing his past so he could build something new. And as for us, we took it slow. Slower than you'd expect from a story this dramatic. Because real healing doesn't happen on a movie timeline. There were hard days. Days Marcus couldn't get out of bed. Days I wondered what the hell I was doing with a man whose world was so different from mine. Days the whispers and the looks from people who couldn't understand us made me want to scream. But there were good days too. So many good days. The morning he showed up at my door with acceptance letters from 3 MBA programs and said, "Pick one. I'm paying for all of them." The afternoon I caught him on the phone with my sister Tasha, asking her for our grandmother's sweet potato pie recipe, because he wanted to surprise me on my birthday. The night he took me back to that garden, the exact spot where I'd grabbed his arm and whispered, "Be quiet." And he stood there holding my hands and said, "You saved my life. And I don't just mean from the poison." I'm not going to tell you we rode off into a fairy tale sunset, because that's not how real life works. We're still figuring it out, every day. But I will tell you this. I walked into that house as the help, invisible, forgettable, a name nobody bothered to learn. And I walked out as the woman who changed everything. Sometimes, the best love stories don't start with a spark. They start with a whisper in the dark. They start with a choice. The terrifying, gut-wrenching choice to do what's right, when everything inside you is screaming to run. My mama was right. I was going to do something big. I just didn't know it would start with 2 words. Be quiet. So I want to leave you with this. My mama used to say, "Silence in the face of evil makes you complicit." And I carried those words with me through every terrifying moment of this story. But here's what I've learned. It's easy to say you'd speak up. It's easy to say you'd do the right thing, until you're the one standing there, shaking, with a packed suitcase by the door, and every logical reason in the world to walk away. So I'm asking 2 things. First, was I right to stay, or was I reckless, putting myself in danger for a man I barely knew? And second, have you ever been in a moment where you had to choose between what was safe and what was right? What did you choose? And would you choose the same thing again? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one.